name is Tiffany. Chris was born on the East Coast, but he grew up in Fort Collins since he was 3. So he considers himself a Colorado resident, native. So he attended 7th and 8th grade at Liberty Common School from 1991 to 2001. Then he graduated from Poudre High School's IB program in 2005 and went on to Regis University. He graduated from there in 2009 with a degree in biochemistry. And then after that he moved to Peru, joined a Catholic missionary community called the Christian Life Movement. He returned to the United States in June of last year, and now he works in youth ministry. If you would join me in giving a warm welcome to our speaker, Chris Lanciotti.
Give a second while they get the little presentation together. So yes, I did attend Liberty. I don't know if I'm the first Liberty alumni to come speak here. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not some famous person or politician, but I hope I can give you guys a few words today on fortitude, which is what my sister and Bob told me to speak about. First of all, I just want to do a few shout-outs and apologies. I'm sorry to Mr. Lund for speaking in this class in 8th grade. I don't think I ever apologized for that. I'm sorry to Mrs. Carr as well. I was a good student, don't worry. But back in 7th and 8th grade, I was a little bit chatty. Oh, there you go. I also made a fool of myself, apparently, while I was here at Liberty. That's a picture of me, believe it or not, in The Wizard of Oz. I was the Dorothy, Tin Man. And I do not know how someone convinced me to dress up in that. I look back, and my mom sent me this photo, and I was like, no way. I don't know why I did that. That definitely was not good for my 7th grade reputation. You know, when you're trying. It's like 7th grade is like when you're trying to start to be cool, and you have all these high schoolers and middle schoolers, and I definitely did do a good job there. But I was showing fortitude apparently wearing that. I also have one more photo there. I have the thing. Yes, there's me in the science fair with a perfect project. Some of you might know that science runs deep in the family, and my dad's PhD is on the board there. I really don't understand I didn't understand half the project when I did it. My dad's like, an analysis of microbials and bacteria. And yes, I got a good grade on the project. It looks great, but I don't know. I'm probably not the first person to have their dad play out their entire PhD on their science fair project. So I just thought there was a few funny photos to kind of help you guys remember, help myself remember what it was like when I was in school here. But fortitude. So I want to offer you guys just a few words. Like I said, I think I don't have a super experience, to offer you. I think, I haven't, had a near-death experience recently, or, haven't been in jail, or haven't been in a war or in a battle or something. A lot of times you hear fortitude in the context of some great battle. And so, when I said, what can I tell a group of Liberty Common High School students or middle school students? What can I offer? With my few years of experience, and around the world, and I thought of 3 things. First of all, I want to show you guys a definition that I found of fortitude that I liked a lot. I have 3 color-coded sections because they're going to kind of talk about the sections of my talk. I don't want this talk to be boring and like, oh man, this guy's just talking about definition the entire time. I want this talk to be something that engages you and something that really, hopefully will challenge you to find a way in your own lives to incorporate fortitude or strength or this idea. So let's just go through real quick the definition I found. It says, fortitude is a moral virtue that ensures firmness in difficulties and constancy in pursuit of the good. I really like this definition because I think it really does capture the right idea of fortitude. Now, what do I mean by the right idea? There are wrong ideas of fortitude and there are right ideas. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys first about today, is what is virtue? So that's why I have the first section, I have highlighted virtue. What is virtue in the world of today? Because how we understand virtue is super important. how we understand the right way to be strong, how we understand the right way to have virtue. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is kind of our generation. I also have a quick apology to Bob, just as a joke, but I don't remember. I don't remember any of these assemblies myself when I was in middle school. I was thinking back, I was like, when I was at the Fortitude Assembly in 7th grade, what did I learn about? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, what was it? And I was like, what would I want to hear? What could I hear if I was a 7th grader, 8th grader, 9th grader, senior in high school? What could I hear that would teach me, would show me, and tell me how to live the virtue right now? I mean, of course, hearing a great story of someone who's gone through a big difficulty would help me. Would help me see that actually I can direct my life to something great. At the same time, how can I live it right now? So the first thing that I thought, let me see what I have. Oh, okay. I'll show you in a second. I like memes. You guys like memes? I like memes. Yes. Okay. The first thing I thought is, well, what do we live right now? Well, first of all, what is the definition of virtue? A virtue is a good habit, a firm decision to pursue the good. For us, and I don't know if you guys have ever heard the term millennials before. I don't know, maybe some of the teachers have. Millennials are all of us born pretty much between like 1985 and 2001, somewhere in there. We're this like new generation of people, supposedly super special. Just like most generations, and this is something you guys probably experience every day, just like most generations, we don't really feel understood by the generation before us. We think we're better because we have all this technology, and we know much better how to use our iPod than our mom does. Or, I don't know if my mom came, but I was going to make a joke, like, it's like your mom yelling in the cell phone, like, because she thinks the microphone's too small or something. She's like, oh, I gotta talk louder. This idea that we own technology, our generation that has so much control over all these tools, makes us feel special, and we receive all of this information. We have all of these tools around us. But does that mean that we know how correctly to develop good habits? Does that mean that we know how to live true virtue? There seems to be, really, and this is something that I kind of, just from my experience and going through college, there seems to be little room for developing true virtue in kind of the modern worldview way of the fast-paced, the way things are going with technology. Things are always changing. Things are always new. You always want the newest one, the best one, the update, the new iPhone. I don't know if you guys have seen this YouTube video of these robots consistently playing with their iPhone, getting these apps, and then the iPhone stops working, they get a new iPhone, and it goes on and on and on and it repeats. And that's, for me, an image of this idea of maybe we don't really know what it means to live constancy and something continual and firm. Things are constantly changing in our life. Now I want you guys to take a minute and think about that, maybe after this, but how many things are consistent in my life? How many times do I move forward little by little and develop good habits? Now, at school, you're forced to develop good habits. You have to have a dress code, maybe. You get free jeans days. Oh, pretty interesting. When you get older, it's free jeans day every day. But we don't have very many opportunities to freely choose to do the good. And do we even know what the good means? Things are constantly changing so often that we really don't reflect on this idea of virtue and of living good habits. What I was going to show, I'm going to show in this meme here. Another thing that I think is a distraction, or something that takes away from us living virtue correctly, is this idea of my little sister. She's not that little anymore. She's a freshman in college, Maria. She introduced me to this last year. First world problems. You ever heard of these? These first world problems. Probably if you've seen memes. And so I have an example of one. Someone didn't refill the Brita pitcher, and now I have to wait 30 seconds for water. I mean, this is one that I liked because, and I'm going to get to this in a minute, my experience in Peru, but we live very comfortable lives. Most of you guys, live pretty comfortable lives. I thank God, live a pretty comfortable life. Not always, haven't always. I've lived in another country, and I'll explain that in a minute, and the differences. But things are pretty good for us. We're not waking up in the morning maybe worried about what we're going to eat or what we're going to drink. We're more worried about, like, if you're a girl, I guess, what kind of eyeliner are you going to put on? If you're a guy, you're like all day worried about, how people are looking at me, or maybe like you keep getting asked to tuck your shirt in, and like, oh my gosh, they've asked me like 50 times to tuck my shirt in. Like these problems that on a bigger scale, if we step back, are these big problems? Are these going to end our lives? No, these are problems that result, from a reality of a pretty comfortable life. And a lot of us live pretty well. So for us to think about this reality of fortitude, I think this reality of virtue, is a little more difficult because maybe we aren't struggling. And as I will explain in a little while, fortitude requires a struggle. We are struggling in some things, but maybe we don't perceive it like a big, epic struggle. But we don't have a lot of these everyday. We're not worried about what we're going to eat today. We're not worried about what we're going to sleep tonight. A lot of us have pretty good families. And so, I was just trying to think of an example. Like, what would a kid, what would a guy, what would a young adult, what would a college student from our generation think as the example of fortitude? And the best example I could come up with was, the X Games, for example. For me, like when I was in college, I wanted to be able to do a backflip ski. I don't know if any other guy has wanted to do that. It's awesome. Anyway, never done it yet. Maybe I should. But this idea of conquering your fear, you can do whatever you want, including taking a bicycle off a diving board. You can do whatever you want, and you guys see it all the time. You're looking at YouTube, you're watching YouTube, and you're seeing all these people do these really stupid things. And you like it, you're like, oh, that's really funny. But there's something about that has currency in our culture. Something about that that's valuable for some reason among us young people. We say, man, that guy has the guts to do that. I respect that guy. That's fortitude. That's courage. Look at that guy. He just ate 15 hot dogs in a row and put it on YouTube. Yeah, that guy's awesome. Well, I ask myself, that's what I see all the time. I watch YouTube. I work in youth ministry with high school kids and middle schoolers. I know what they watch on YouTube. I know you guys watch it all the time. So, is that really an example of virtue? Is that really firmness and constancy in pursuit of the good? I mean, there might be something good about eating 15 hot dogs. I mean, great for you. Good for calories. Just another example that popped in my head. Another one is this constant idea that us as a generation, that what we're doing is changing the world. So, like, we all have our Nalgene's and, we have our Starbucks cups with recyclable sleeves on them. That means we're changing the world, right? And we have like recyclable napkins and toilet paper, If everything's recyclable and reusable, then it's good, right? And we feel like we're changing the world through these kind of simple things. But is that, are we really seeking the good? Are we seeking the best good that we could possibly seek for man? So those are some of the questions I had about virtue today for us. As youth, as a younger generation, as millennials. So my second part, I talk about firmness and difficulties and constancy. And what I do want to look at now is I wanted to look at my experience kind of post-college. So in the end, even though I was talking in Mrs. Carr's science class a lot, the science thing worked out for me. I ended up going to college to study chemistry. Apparently philosophy doesn't make money, so I couldn't study that. I wasn't allowed to. Studied biochemistry, did really well, was getting ready to go to med school, and something hit me where I said, well, I don't know if this is what I want to do the rest of my life. Is this the best good for me? And that's an experience you can ask me about later, about that experience of transformation and changing kind of my path in life. But what happened is I ended up spending almost 5 years living in Peru, spending almost 3 years in kind of training and preparation to be a missionary, and then 2 years living there, doing a lot of youth ministry and missionary work. And I just wanted to show you a few people that I met along the way. A lot of people were like, oh, you lived in another, I get it all the time, oh, you lived in another country, you lived in Peru, like, that must have been so hard, and it must have been, must have been an opportunity for you to grow in fortitude, because it was so hard for you to live in another country. And I think it was difficult. It was difficult to learn another language. It was difficult to learn another culture. It is. Those things are scary. Those things are hard. But I don't think I learned quite as much doing that, having that experience as I did from the people that I encountered and what they were going through, which, to tell you the truth, was 10 times more difficult than what I had to go through. The first, I just have a picture of Peru. This is what people normally think of Peru, like, maybe nice sunny beaches and Machu Picchu, old churches, and there's so much more, of course. The children were the first thing that hit me. I want to, kids like you and me, when we were little, a lot of these children I encountered on mission trips. We did a lot of mission work in the kind of outskirts of the main city, of the capital of Lima. Lima's a little bit bigger than Fort Collins. There's about 9.5 million people living there. It's a little bit 19 times bigger. And the first thing that hit me was these children. Remember what I was saying before about our first world problems, like, oh my gosh, we lost the remote again. Like, oh my God, we can't find the remote, or my iPod's not charged. What am I going to do? I have like 15 minutes in the car. So, these are kids that, believe it or not, are happy. They're happy kids. And, it was really hard for me to see that. It was hard for me to see kids that were happy and had nothing. And it was super important for me to encounter them and then to develop relationships with them. And I just have a few more pictures of kids I encountered. This was a mission trip last year. I have to kind of flip through these because this is an old lady who, on one of my mission trips to the mountains of Peru, believe it or not, we're so proud of our 14ers here in Colorado. This village where I was working at is at 14,000 feet, and there are mountains above that, so we're talking 22,000 foot peaks there. Really beautiful place. Well, we were staying in her house, and they gave us the only completed room in their house to stay in, and they gave us their propane stove. And so she was cooking her meals on this little earthenware stove, because she gave us, the missionaries, her stove to use. And so this examples of complete generosity, even though they had so little. And then this is another guy, Juancito, from the same trip. This is one of the work we did. So I'm just going to kind of pass through it and get to this picture. So this is an example. This is where they live, on the side of the hill outside of Lima. These are called shanty towns. And the pink house right in the middle, let's see if I can use this. This house belongs to a friend of mine named Bonnie. That's Bonnie, down there, next to me in the middle. And you know what hit me about Bonnie? And this was super important for me, and getting to my point about fortitude, was she said, I asked her, and I was hanging out with her one day, and one day we were working, I said, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I was like, I don't know, I guess I didn't know what I was asking when I asked that, because she's pretty poor, and there's 10 people living in the same house. She lives with 5 brothers and sisters, plus her sister's kids, plus her parents. And they don't have very much money. She walks 1.5 miles to school a day. And she said, well, I want to be a doctor. I was like, really? I wanted to be a doctor. And it was hard, and I knew how hard it was for me to be a doctor. You all have heard, oh my gosh, I want to be a doctor one day, but I know how hard it'll be. Imagine for her, and yet she was able to have the hope that one day maybe it'd be possible. She didn't have a lot of these comforts and things that we do in our lives, but she was able to have that hope and have that desire. And for me, it was super important to encounter these people, to see that in the midst of their struggles, they continue to have that hope, to have the strength to form them. Just one more thought before I finish. Just about what we need to do, and like I mentioned, I promised I was going to say at the beginning, what we need to do now. Us. You don't necessarily need to go to Peru to find fortitude. You don't necessarily need to go find people who've gone through a harder experience than you to live it right now. What you need to do right now is be willing to stand up, and this gets to our last part of the definition. Stand up in pursuit of the good. What does that mean? Now, I make a plea from my position. I don't know where you guys are all standing, but what is the good for you? Now, when you're younger, you pretty much learn and accept what your parents start teaching, or you believe, you have the faith or religion that your parents do. And as you get older, especially even when you get to high school and afterwards, you have this idea of, okay, now I'm free to make my own decision. I'm free to become the person that I want to be. Finally, my parents are letting me do it. That's kind of the general feeling when you're a freshman in college. Yes, there's this feeling, oh my gosh, we're free. We can do whatever we want. It's not true. It doesn't work that way. I'll just tell you, from all the failures, please don't believe that. We need to be careful about how we understand the good. And we need to pursue it. We need to pursue, and you guys have heard or studied Plato. Have you heard of Plato? Maybe some of you. I heard you guys studying Greek things in the classrooms today. He talks about the pursuit of the good, the pursuit of the true, the pursuit of the beautiful. But what is really true, what is really good, and is really beautiful? True things. Like, what does it even mean as a high school kid? What does it mean to pursue something that's true? Pursuing the truth. Pursuing what is truly right and wrong. And that, to me, is what takes true fortitude. Is making right decisions. Thinking correctly. For me, what did that mean? That meant, at one point, deciding not to go to med school and dedicate my life to service. That was very important to me. I realized that maybe my motivations for becoming a doctor weren't the best. I was like, oh, I want to make some money, and this is something you're going to have to. It's not wrong. Any single profession wouldn't be wrong or right, just in itself. But you need to decide for you. You need to be able to understand who you are, to find the true person of yourself, and it's going to be a fight. Now, I really don't have too much more time, but I just would say, from my own experience, and a lot of people ask me, like, what does it mean to be a Catholic missionary or consecrated brother? And I mean, really in our world today, religion in itself is pretty irrelevant. Let's be honest. In the modern culture of all of these things going on, technology and advancements, religion itself is pretty irrelevant. We don't really see a need for it. We've pretty much covered everything, right? As human beings. I'm kind of speaking tongue-in-cheek, I'm kind of joking, but the way the world works today, religion doesn't really seem needed. Everything seems to be covered. And I tell you from experience, that is not true. You will not be happy until you find meaning in your life. And for me, what is fortitude? Fortitude means fighting to be relevant today. Fighting for freedom to pursue the truth today. Fighting for the freedom to be who I am. And for me, that's not just like this, not that cultural, oh, I'm going to be who I want to be, or I'm going to be the person I want to be. No, it's the true person, the true vision of yourself. We're talking real truth here. Does real truth really exist? So that's what I want to leave you with, is just this idea of fighting, this idea of battle. We see it all the time. We see it in Lord of the Rings. We see it in Hunger Games. I love Hunger Games. We see it in this pursuit, in this battle for something greater than us. And that is what's going to form us. That's what's going to make us strong. That's what is going to bring true fortitude as a virtue. Virtue is something you're going to have to earn. And you're not going to earn it just doing whatever you want. I don't know where that idea got into the head. It really came in because of a guy named Nietzsche and a group of philosophers who said, well, we can just think whatever we want. Darwin, not that Darwin's a bad guy, he was a good scientist, he was just a bad philosopher. Okay? So, we need to fight for what is true about ourselves, what is true in the human person. And so, that's what I leave with you guys today. Thank you very much for listening. there from August of 2009 until June of 2014. So almost 5 years I was there. And I had gone before, so I guess if you add it all up, it was a little over 5.5 years. So right after I graduated from college till last year. Yes. Spanish, yes, I hope so. I was there, yeah, I mean, yes, I'm fluent. I still would like to get my accent a little better. But yes, I'm fluent in Spanish. I mean, we can do the talk again in Spanish for those who come back. What? Something?
What type of training did you have to do to get to Peru?
Training. I needed a lot of guts at first. I mean, at first, I didn't have any preparation necessarily on this side, other than my own personal decision, my own discernment, I guess you could say. But then I decided to move down and become part of an organization, which is what it said to be the Christian Life Movement, is headquartered in Peru. So I just moved down there, not knowing the language, and went for it. It took me 6 months of pretty hard work learning the language, then to really be prepared for my studies down there. So it was down in Peru where I received my training, you could say. It was kind of just me jumping from here. I didn't do too much here in the States to prepare for that. So, yes. What was my career? I have a degree in biochemistry, but I've never worked in that. And so I now work at a church. I'm a youth minister. I work at high school and middle schoolers. I also work with outdoor trips, do retreats, backpacking, things like that. But that's my profession, I guess, right now. So cool. Okay.
Foundations for winners. Hola. Hola. We should ask you some questions in Spanish, right? Okay. Okay. I'm here again to present the Foundation Stone Award to a wonderful young lady. Let me tell you a little bit about her first. Okay, so this lady exhibits prudence every day in the way she's always polite. She's friendly, she's respectful, she helps her classmates. She's very quiet though, so maybe you would not think of her immediately. She shows temperance. She's wise beyond her years. You can tell in everything she says that she's thinking before she's speaking. She's very mature. She's the one that if the other kids are acting a little bit 8th grade style, she'll go and say like, shh, or look at me like this is embarrassing. So, this girl is also one of the most grateful young ladies I've ever met. She is the type of student that sends you an email, and I reply back, and she emails you back to say, thank you so much for answering my email. She's the one that stays at the end of class, and before leaving, always says thank you for your class. She's friendly. And believe it or not, I had not thought of her at first. I was having a hard time thinking, who could show a lot of character? Believe it or not, I ran a little experiment. I thought that I was a science teacher. And I asked random students. I said, hey, if I were to ask you who shows virtue in our school, in your grade, who would you say? Can you believe my results? Every single person that I asked, every single student in her grade said her name. Do you know what name I'm talking about? I'll tell you. I'm talking about Miss Anna Moore. So congratulations, Anna.
Stays behind the scenes as much as I can and make sure that you have what you need. And it's not a lot of interaction that I get to have with students directly. But it's a real privilege for me today to get to award this person their award because they exemplify what I think a lot of liberty is all about. You know, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't have the character qualities that are taught here alongside of the educational things that we emphasize, you're not going to do very well in today's culture. This is a person who I know I can rely on when I ask them to do something. They will do it, even if they don't like doing it. They volunteer when they could just as easily go find something else they enjoy doing more. Stopping by my room and saying, hey, is there something I can do, is a way of acknowledging and validating things that are important to the whole school and pitching in. The person I'm talking about is someone that I think exemplifies what each of us ought to have with some of those areas that are life. And the person I'm talking about is Adam Bell.
best they can in front of everybody, and you and the